Hello and welcome to Why Wait Till Sunday. I'm your host, Alfred, and I am here with a very special guest tonight, Sam Holt of the Fantasy Focused podcast. And then she also has some offshoots of that, the Fantasy Debate, and then one-on-one with Sam Holt. So welcome to our little program here. How are you tonight?
I'm excellent. I'm so excited to talk about everything on our list today because I have so many questions for you. I don't know how many questions you'll have for me, but I'm just here to learn. I'm a student of the game. I got a pen and paper. I'm ready to go. Let's talk Devy. Let's talk all this stuff. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, well that's a great attitude. I love that. I'm pumped up now. Yeah, so I'm thinking about, or in the off season here, we did do stuff during season, some DFS stuff for college, but I was like, I want to continue this in the off season. So one of the things I really am passionate about is growing Devy players, and then even getting more in depth into campus to Canton. But tonight we'll just focus on Devy. Because I think it's so fun. I think the biggest leap actually is like from redraft to dynasty is a huge jump. And then I really think from dynasty to Devy is almost a hop skip away. I mean, you're pretty close already. And we'll talk a little bit about why it's actually maybe not as far away as you might think, or the common, dynasty player. You're not very far away from Devy. So love to have you on. My goal here is to basically convince you that you want to try Devy League. So we'll see how that goes. But you are in some dynasty leagues already. You're obviously very, very big into fantasy football, and you have all these shows and stuff like that. So what is your experience so far into dynasty? How do you like it? And how long have you been doing that? I think a while.
Yeah, so my longest running dynasty league, I want to say we've changed our rules a lot. So we call our inaugural league, I think that one we're in our 7th year or 8th year.
Oh,
but
yeah.
But we've been doing fantasy football together since college. So now I'm showing my age, probably 10, 11 years.
You don't have to say anything more than you want.
We're circling the mid 30s now, but that's
Same.
okay. Yeah, it's fine. It's all just a number.
Yeah.
Anyways, no, that league, I've been with these guys in fantasy football leagues since college. This dynasty league in particular has evolved a lot. We've gone from just, I would say, a regular roster to going IDP. And then it was just 3 players in IDP. And now it's a full roster of IDP. So that's 6 IDP players. It's rookie as well. So we have a rookie draft where you can trade draft picks. And now it's also a super flex league. So every year we keep adding a layer. So it's perfect timing that you and I are going to talk Devy, because during our annual rules meeting, we have one guy that's constantly wanting to add a taxi position section to the league. And every time it gets voted down because Oliver's like, we don't get it. Like, no. But maybe this is the time. Maybe I'm going to pull all of this knowledge. I'll propose the rule. It'll get passed, and he'll get pissed that it took me to get it passed.
Yeah, well, you have some clout, I'm sure, in the league as the maybe resident expert. We all say in quotes. I always call myself an expert in quotes, but yeah. So I'm sure your vote will hold a lot of weight. So that's great. So you love Dynasty.
Yes.
I mean, you've never played in Devy. We're going to talk about it today. So my biggest question to start, and I like to ask anybody this, is what are the barriers so far that you've experienced? Like, why maybe haven't you done it? Is it lack of knowledge or whatever else? Like, what are the barriers that you perceive to not jumping into the deeper format like Devy?
I think for me, my biggest barrier probably is lack of knowledge, first of all. I don't mind admitting when I don't know something about something. That means I have an opportunity to grow. So that's what this opportunity is. I'm very excited for it. But also when it comes to college football, I find that I'm always showing up late to the party when it comes to rookies and when it comes to college football. I don't always spend as much time as I would like to on college football. I kind of just divert all of my knowledge, pulling it from my brother, who is extremely into all aspects of college football.
Okay.
And since he spends his Saturdays on college and I spend my Sundays on NFL, I kind of have that pool to get some knowledge from to add to my rookies. And then, of course, once the draft happens, I do my deep dives because I care most about where these guys land. I could talk ad nauseum about Trevor Lawrence, but if he's going to end up somewhere that doesn't fit him, then why am I going to, go down that rabbit hole?
Sure. So that's really nice, actually, that you have your brother even for starters, who knows a lot about college football. Because that was going to be my next question is just in general. I mean, do you find yourself watching college on Saturday, or are you just preparing for what you're going to have to do on Sunday? Because I think that's a big deal too. How do you spend your Saturdays already? Do you have room to follow college, you think?
That's the other problem I find, and I'm sure you understand this as much as anyone. When it's in football season, Saturday is the only day I can get other stuff kind of done, just a little bit.
Yeah, because up to Friday,
life.
the whole schedule of the week and the injury reports and all that practice reports and everything is finally done on Friday. So actually Saturday is the
Yes.
calm before the storm. So I understand that.
Pretty much. And we do the fantasy debate on Saturdays, and we'd usually do that Saturday morning. So it's like the very last bit of injury news after Friday that we can cover. And then Sunday mornings, we're live right before the games with the whole crew answering start sit questions. So it's kind of football the whole time. So I kind of need that Saturday, at least afternoon, to pretend like I have other friends outside of football.
Yeah.
Or at least go visit my mom, who's just like, can you do anything else on the weekend besides football? Like,
No, actually,
no, I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I totally get that. And, the C2C world maybe would not be for you because you do have to like set lineups and stuff for Saturday. But Devy is no problem because, yes, you need to keep track, but you don't have to actually do anything on Saturday. You already have the players rostered, and you're just kind of maybe you can catch the box scores at the end of the day and see what stocks am I holding that went up this week because, had a big game. So, I think that feeds nicely into what Devy is. And for anybody who's listening that doesn't know what we were talking about already, Devy stands for developmental, and then it just got shortened to Devy. But I've had multiple people tell me, like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know what Devy means. So it's not self-explanatory. But basically, you have developmental players on, like you said, a taxi squad, or really what it is they're not eligible to play. They're not in the NFL yet. So it's really like a second roster. And it can go as deep as you want. I mean, I'm in a Devy league with only 2 spots, and I'm in a Devy league with like 7 spots. And so it's basically this roster of current college players, but you have them on your team. So when they get drafted, they just jump into your NFL roster, and you can, start them right away or whatever.
So question off of that then.
Yes.
I'm going to raise my hand.
Oh, no, I love it. I love it. Let's do it back and forth. This is great.
Yes. Okay. So in that league, for example, you say you have 2 positions that are on your Devy squad, and then they jump into your roster once the rookie draft happens. Now, in my big dynasty league, we have, what is it now? I think it's 10 or 13. I think it's 10 keepers now. Plus, we get to keep 3 rookies that you draft in that year, or they have a rookie contract. And our rookie contracts are 3 years. So you can, if I only get 1 rookie out of the draft, but I still have 2 other players that I want to keep that have rookie contracts, they can go towards my rookies. So with a Devy squad, how would that affect your keepers overall? Or is that just league dependent?
I think it's going to be league dependent, but generally I'd answer that and say the contract thing is a bit of a different format. I'm in one contract league. It's pretty complicated the way that it all works. I get what you're saying about the rookie contract and things like that. But typically it's just really set up as a dynasty in the sense that you've just got your whole team, and you may have to cut veterans, guys who have just been wasting away on your bench or whatever, to make room for guys who are graduating into your, new NFL team. They're, for instance, you have Rashad Bateman already on your Devy list. He's going to get drafted and be on an NFL team. So you're still going to have to maintain the roster spots on your NFL side. So to bring Bateman up, you're going to have to probably cut someone. And then Bateman will just naturally come in and be on your team. But, unless you have the contract set up, otherwise it's just a dynasty team. And so your roster stays the same, except for to move guys in, you do have to, cut someone out.
Okay. So then off of that makes sense. Cause like once you pull someone on, someone's going to have to get off the boat. Sure. That makes sense. But so then when you get these Devy players, are they always seniors? Or are they always juniors? Or is it any year in the college league?
Yeah, great question. So you can really set that up as much as you want to, because there's really not a lot of formats that even, like Sleeper and Yahoo and NFL, they don't even have, like, you can't literally select players. So a lot of times these are run on other spreadsheets or something like a Google Doc, shared Google Doc, where people have the players that they are in possession of or whatever on the list. So sorry, your question was, how do you?
So it doesn't matter what year
Oh,
the
right.
college player is.
Yeah, so you can basically set it up however you want is basically how I was getting there, because it really is just your own rules on your own spreadsheet. I did one where there were no rules as to literally you could draft anybody in the entire world. If there's somebody in Russia that you want to pick, you think he's going to come over and be the next NFL star, you can put their name on there. There's no actual like database. It's just who we put in there, and then you have the rights to that player. So we actually did 7 rounds startup last year. And one guy was very close to selecting a current high school junior, I think it was, but he ended up not. He was like, well, I want to, but he ended up taking a guy who was actually in college already. But there were no rules in that league, But I
Interesting.
think a lot of times it really is they have to be like on a college team. So freshman is fine, as long as they've signed with a college team and are on the roster. But if you
So
wanted to, you could say like, yeah, pick a high schooler if you're just convinced 8 years from now he's going to be like good.
So like in a basketball league, you could draft LeBron's son and Dwayne Wade's son and just say, hey, I'm just going to keep
And
them.
just sit on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just sit on that
yeah,
for however long it takes.
exactly.
That makes sense. Okay, so then another question off of that, obviously league dependent, you get to decide, okay, we're gonna have one, every person can draft one, and then you create some sort of draft order, I'm guessing, to pick those Devy players, keep track of them on a spreadsheet, or however your league so chooses. Those players then they can become trade pieces, couldn't they?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can trade guys as long as they're on your, we'll call it the Devy roster. It's not exactly taxi because you can't bring them up, in season or anything. But yeah, who's ever on that Devy roster, yeah, you can absolutely trade those guys. So for instance, if I've got I don't know who's a big name for next year, Sam Howell, quarterback for UNC, pretty popular guy, probably in running to be the one, the number one quarterback taken next year NFL draft. So he'll be very buzzy by the time that happens. If I've got him on my Devy team and someone wants to offer me, Josh Jacobs and they want Sam Howell, yeah, we can do that trade. And what would happen is you'd have to just in the NFL side, the commissioner would make a transaction to give you Josh Jacobs, and then they'd probably just reroute the name on the spreadsheet to be under the other guy's name or whatever. So he has Sam Howell now.
So then, because we have an annual rookie draft, and we obviously draft rookie draft picks. We have 3 rounds, and so all of those picks are tradable, et cetera, et cetera. And we also in our league we have salary-based contracts. So everything is auction draft based. So everyone's prices go all over the place. I think that our overall salary for our team now is about $300, but you can't go into a draft without having at least, I think we have like a minimum.
Okay, you have a min and a max, yeah.
Yeah, you have to have a minimum amount to spend about like $88 in order to fill out the last of your roster positions.
Yeah.
If you just went like a dollar or something.
Yeah.
So anyways, off of that, how does this Devy affect leagues that already do rookie drafts? It sounds like it would almost take some value out of that rookie draft.
It absolutely does. And that's why you'll see some people maybe mentioning on Twitter, someone, gives a trade example and they're like, okay, I get this player and a Devy depleted 108 in the draft, in the rookie draft. Because what happens in the Devy league is, let's say you have 5 Devy players on your roster. And so you've got a 12-man team, 12-man league, 5 each is what, 70 players that are rostered in the college ranks. But there's and then that's all classes, right? So that's freshmen all the way up to seniors. So there's going to be people in the real life NFL rookie draft that are not currently rostered. And so there will be a rookie draft in these Devy leagues of players who are not currently rostered. And a great and it's not always, it's just much more top heavy. It doesn't mean you can't find anybody. Like for instance, last year in many Devy leagues, I mean, Joe Burrow wasn't rostered because he hadn't done anything. CEH really wasn't even rostered in probably a lot of leagues. And even Justin Jefferson in some spots was probably not rostered. So you had like 3 of the top rookies because they exploded, and you had that really unique situation with LSU, just having a blazing, ridiculous season, and all these guys' stock went crazy up. So the top end of the rookie drafts last year was pretty great. I mean, if you're in a super flex and you're at the 101, I mean, you're going to take Joe Burrow. That's huge. I mean, he'd be the number one in like any rookie draft anyway.
Yeah.
And even in a Devy depleted, that 101 was super valuable.
Yeah.
But it drops off really fast because then all of a sudden, I mean, a lot of guys, running backs especially, are probably going to be rostered. So running backs in a Devy depleted draft is usually pretty thin. Receivers, you can still find gems. But yes, those rookie picks are depleted because you only have the guys who are not currently rostered, to do the rookie draft. And then you'll also have a Devy draft, which may be another question. So I'm just going to.
Yeah, no, that brings me to my next question then. So would you, your best scenario, would you do your rookie draft, let's say end of April, beginning of May, and then do a separate Devy draft maybe in the middle of summer?
Yeah. And people do it in different ways. But yeah, I think, the rookie draft after the real NFL draft, so landing spots and who gets drafted and draft capital and all that sort of thing. And then, yeah, I mean, you could do the Devy draft really anytime. But a lot of people wait until like early to mid-August just to have something to look forward to, before the camps and all that start for the college teams. Because at that point, the Devy draft, the players you're taking there are college players. So it would be like guys who are going to either like play in college that year. So they could be seniors, but they could also be, a lot of times you're going to be taking incoming freshmen and things like that because like they have the highest ceiling, they have unknown potential, and that's really what you want. So yeah, as long as they're not rostered, you can take anybody in college in the Devy draft. And so you can then trade rookie draft picks and also Devy draft picks. So you could make a trade where you're going to send so-and-so plus the rookie 203 and the Devy 105. So that's going to be like the Devy first round 5th pick, and the rookie 2nd round 3rd pick. And so those are obviously valued different ways. And I mean, most people will say obviously the Devy draft pick is worth more because it's, you're getting your fresh look at all the available incoming players, whereas we talked about the rookie draft picks are a little less valuable and certainly drop off quick.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, I feel like I've just absorbed a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, well,
I'm very ready.
I'm glad you can digest that a little bit. I will ask a couple of questions. We've talked about Dynasty, and I think this is the one point I really wanted to make. And, I thought I was going to have to actually convince you, but it sounds like you're pretty interested anyway. So that's really great. I feel like my job is much easier now. But so in Dynasty now, like you've played this, you're very familiar. How do you, as it stands, value rookie picks in a trade that are 2 and 3 years away? So like right now it's 2021. We're about to get into the 2021 NFL draft. How are you valuing the 2022 picks or even 2023 draft picks? Some person comes along and they're like, I will offer you player X for your player X and 2022 2nd round pick. Like right now, how do you think about that? What do you do with that information?
Well, it depends on the league that I'm making the trade in. If I'm in a position where I feel like I've built a team that's ready to win now to the following year, I obviously value earlier picks more. Or if I feel like I'm already stacked and I just need one more veteran piece, I will make the moves to trade away those earlier picks than the later picks and say, all right, you know what? I'm pushing all my chips in on this year. So I'm going to get rid of all my 1st round picks. Screw it. I don't care. I'm going to send those away so that I can get some veteran pieces that I know are going to help me win now. It just depends on where I'm at in my season. Right now, but especially between last year and this year, last year, I was going into the season knowing, okay, this is the COVID season. I have no idea what my team is going to look like, but I positioned all of my salary caps and all of my players in a way that I could keep my favorites, not only last year, but this year as well. So if they ended up canceling the season, which all of us didn't know if that was going to happen, then at least I knew I still have my guys the following year as well. So I wasn't banking on just this past year. That in mind, I know that because of those contracts, I'm already set up in a good position where those keepers still have solid contracts. If I had to trade away a couple veteran presences, I could if I was that hyped on a landing spot for an incoming rookie. So I put myself, I think, in a good position where I can make moves however I see fit, depending on how the draft goes. Now, if the draft goes and some of my favorite guys went to teams that I don't feel like they fit very well in, then maybe I'm going to push some of those picks away and try and just get a couple more of those pieces, especially like I was saying earlier, this is an IDP league. And so these defensive players end up becoming very, very valuable. So those are also guys that I would be maybe moving to hold as keepers.
Gotcha. So it sounds to me like the picks that you're currently have in your possession, you really are treating them, and this isn't wrong, but you're treating them like assets. Like,
yep.
If I need future stuff, I'll acquire them. And if I don't need future things, I want to win now, I will pretty freely, it sounds like, basically try to bait people, send them away, entice someone with an offer with some future picks.
Oh, yeah. And as a result of COVID, too, I was really grateful for this. The fantasy community is obviously such a fun community to be a part of. I joined probably, I think, at least 2, maybe 3 other dynasty leagues last year. So one of them, I actually immediately, as soon as the draft was over, I basically just lit it on fire and I just traded away everyone and just got all the picks that I could. So this coming draft, I have like 10 of the first.
It's so fun.
Picks.
It's so fun when you just have your pick of anybody and you just know, like, I basically have the whole first round to myself.
Yeah. And then, as soon as the draft happens, I anticipate getting plenty of offers for those picks. And if some of those offers are for players that I'm really excited about, then I'm excited to see what that change gives me in, creating value out of those picks that I have just accumulated. Like, I feel like very Scrooge McDuck with how many draft picks I have in one league in particular. I've just... they're all mine.
You start getting them, and then you just want more. And it's like, I want to collect them all.
I have to have them all.
Yeah, once you get in the mindset, it's hard to pull it back. But so, kind of where I'm going with this is, getting into Devy. The big thing is for your Devy draft, you want to know who is coming down the line. So you're kind of your vision, your scope extends a little deeper past rookies for this year. You want to have at least in your head, maybe like top 10 for each position for next year, top 10, what you think for the year after. And so by doing that, because you're going to be able to draft them in your Devy league, I've found now I have a pretty good idea, and things change. I mean, there's a lot of volatility here, but you have an idea of, I know right now what I think the 2022, draft is going to look like, even in the NFL, like who's probably going to be a first round pick, who's probably not, all those sorts of things. And obviously the further away you get, the much more volatile it is, but I have an idea of the 2023 draft right now. So what I'm saying is I did that because of my Devy leagues, but even in Dynasty now I've found, because I'm still in some Dynasty leagues, that this is valuable information because I know the 2023 first is going to be pretty sweet. Like, it's going to be very valuable. Though that draft is probably going to be loaded. It's going to be like this year, whereas 2022 is going to be a little less. But like this year, the whole first round in your rookie draft is like super exciting. I mean, you can get like some really awesome players that are very buzzy at 112, this year. And I think that's what 2023 is going to look like. So if I'm doing a trade, I mean, I may ask someone for their 2023 first, and like, it's 2 years away. So someone who's not thinking that far down the line might be like, sure, yeah, I don't care. Yeah. And to get the deal done, sure, I'll throw in 2023. That's so far away. But I think it's valuable to know, to the extent that you can, what these classes are going to look like down the line. And I think even in your typical Dynasty league, it still pays. And I think that would be an edge for some people who might not be thinking that far down the line.
No, it definitely sounds like it would give you the edge. To me, it almost makes me want to try a Devy league outside of my one main league, just so that I can get the knowledge and bring that knowledge into this other Dynasty league, just so I can have the advantage. Because it sounds like it would give you a huge advantage. The only thing I would think that would make it a little bit difficult, I guess, would be monitoring the injuries that happen within college and how the players come back from those. Because I feel like there's plenty of NFL players that we know had huge injuries in their college years, and then they fell in a draft, and then were slept on during the draft, and then they come out huge. So that could be a player you could still miss given that format.
Yeah, it's true. I think, it's the nice thing is if you're playing anything where it's like an actual college, you were getting points for these players. I mean, injury and keeping up with that is a bit of a task. But in the Devy thing, it's really like these are just more long-term stocks. I mean,
Yeah.
I've said that, and it's kind of cliche. People do say that a lot nowadays, but it's just you're holding this guy. So if he gets injured, I mean, it stinks, but you're not getting like if he's injured in his junior year, I mean, you're not going to get points for that anyway. So you just hold and hope that he comes back. And if he was really good, he probably is rostered now. At some point, yeah. I mean, if a guy's injured, but you saw enough that you're buying in and he wasn't already rostered because maybe he had a good half season, got injured. Now people are sleeping on him because, everyone's got short memories. And then you could snag him late in a Devy draft. But again, you're not as worried because by the time they get to the NFL, you just want them to be helpful for your team.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think that as you're watching these players, develop in college, even once they get into the NFL, it is far more likely that a rookie comes into the NFL and doesn't blow up their first year. They take time to still develop. So I think that's something else that we discuss a lot in our Dynasty League is having a player that's just a developmental player within season. Like the points don't count towards your team, but you just want to see how that player does. That's the one that always gets vetoed, that rule, because we're like, if you picked him up, why aren't you playing him? Like,
yeah.
So
yeah, I'm kind of like that. I mean, I kind of see that, but I guess like this taxi idea. Now, in your league, when people bring up the taxi idea, are they meaning like a college player? Or are they meaning like what you're saying, like a guy I just want, but I don't want to actually like throw him onto my bench?
Yeah, it's
Like an NFL player.
It's usually a rookie that they want to taxi and just watch how they develop, and that's the part that I'm like, okay, that's like a piss or get off the pot moment in my mind. It's like either you want him or you don't. And then that to me devalues that rookie pick also, because if you grab him and you're like, oh, but he's in my taxi, so I'm not really using him. That is a bit more, it's not shady, but it's just more annoying to me. Like, where's the commitment to that player if you are going to use the value of a rookie draft pick on him and just not start him, or not even have him like on your bench where you could slide him in if you just happen to need a receiver for that week because everyone got hurt or it's a really bad bye week and just see how it goes. That's the risk and reward that you have with fantasy football. So I think that that's why I'm not super pumped on taxi players, because it also just feels like a bit of a cheat in some ways, and also like you're not having to fully commit. But
Yeah,
I say all that and I'm like, yeah.
I think there's some strategic type stuff you can do with a taxi roster. I'm in some with a taxi roster, and I mean, I just I basically just treat it. It's like to me, it's just a bigger bench. I mean, I know there's some stuff with the taxi, like once you bring them up, you can't put them back and things like that. But basically, to me, it's just makes the league deeper. Because you can pull more people off the waivers because you don't have to use it on a taxi. So the taxi is just an extension of your bench, and I'm sure there's some strategic stuff you can do, but for me, I haven't found. I'm like, if you just want more players, just make your bench bigger. I mean, to me, it's kind of like I don't get why it has to be taxi, but someone maybe smarter than me could explain it in a better way. But I'm kind of with you.
I agree with you though. Yeah, why not just make the bench deeper? And we had to make our bench deeper as well once we added the 3 additional defensive player positions to our league. We're going to have just 3 plus a flex defensive player at the time. And then we did 1 year of that. And we're like, screw it. We just want all the defensive players. So we have now 6. And we have.
That's a lot. I did join one league a couple of years ago with a full-on IDP, like, I don't know, like 4 linemen, 3 or 4 linebackers, 3 or 4 safeties or DBs, and I'm still in that league, but that's
rough.
It's a lot. It is a lot. I could learn a lot about IDP. I still treat them like team defense, where I'm just like, I literally couldn't care less who's on my IDP roster. I will pick somebody up if I need to. Otherwise, like I'm not thinking about it. I have it, but I haven't put in the time and effort to really understand how to everything, every wrinkle in any rules for any league, there's an edge to be had.
Yeah,
if you think about it and figure it out. IDP is still one where I'm just like, yeah, I'll play, but I'm not going to like put effort into figuring out where the edge is. I know it's there. I just haven't done it yet.
No, I know. And same for me. Every year I kind of go back and forth. I always end up with maybe 2 guys that I've had my eye on, and then I scoop and I'm like, yes, that's going to be amazing. However, it's such a volatile position, even more volatile than the running back position, where in terms of injury, where the rotation of those players is so much greater. as a result of that, we had only one waiver wire day a week, and we upped it to two because of the injury reports on Fridays. So
Mm-hmm.
that way on Saturdays you could draft defensive players only in the waivers. You can pick them off
Oh,
only off waivers, only
interesting
defensive
wrinkle.
players, just
Yeah.
because of those player reports.
Well, and all the content is geared towards offensive players,
Absolutely.
obviously. Like you don't
Mhm.
even get little sticky note blurb updates on defensive players when they're injured. Like
You
you
don't
can't even
get
find it.
anything.
No.
It's just
The
like
guy
it's
hasn't
either
played for like 3 weeks.
questionable or
There's
not.
not even a note on him.
No, and what's even worse is like Sunday morning, you could end up with just a giant red dot on your player, and you're like, "You were fine yesterday. What happened?" It's
I
so
know.
upsetting.
It's hard because there's just not a lot of coverage, but yeah, I mean, and that's actually if you're playing college football fantasy, that's a big problem is the injury stuff because it's even worse than the NFL. There's no rules and regulations. I mean, coaches can just not say anything, and literally, you are waiting for a um like a journalism intern probably who's on the sideline and just watching and saying, "Oh, this guy's not dressed out," and he just tweets it. They just tweet it out, and you're like scouring the internet. You're trying to find all these. They're not even beat writers. They're literally like not even interns. They're just like students probably who are like taking an elective, and their job is to stand on the sideline. And so that's who you're relying on to
Yeah.
give you the info. And sometimes you don't get it. So either you're watching the game or at the game and you spot it yourself, or you may not find out till 10 minutes after kickoff and someone tweets out, "Oh yeah, this guy's like not as doesn't have his helmet on. He's not in pads." And then you're just like sunk because there was no information. Everything looked fine. So anyway, that's a whole nother big deal, but that's you wouldn't have to worry about that stuff in Devy because
No.
that's more like if you need the guy to score points for you that day in college, which like for DFS and stuff is an issue.
Which I like, and I think I was briefly looking over C2C versus Devy before we spoke, and that other level, I just know I would not even begin to have the time for. I mean, I love the name of Campus to Canton. I think that's so clever. But I can't even imagine trying to set a college lineup as well as set up and make moves on my other leagues. Like in season and over the past 8 years, I've ranged from having 3 to 10, 12 leagues that I've been in a season with redraft and dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot. So adding in a college league, even if it was just one with like 3 players, would be my brain
No,
hurt.
I get that, and it is a task. I mean, the injuries, like I said, the only thing I would say is that these leagues are so deep that it's definitely not like you can't really even go grab a waiver guy. Like your roster is your roster almost because it's so big. I mean, the one I'm in, I think there's like 45 on the college roster.
What?
So it's so many players that you basically are choosing from your own roster, guys
Mhm.
to sub in. So you don't have to scour the waiver wire or really anything like that. Like your roster is kind of your roster. Um, so that makes it a little easier, I guess, because you can just pick from your own guys. You don't have to like
Sure.
do a waiver run. And a lot of them actually don't even have waivers the sense that our NFL teams have waivers. Like they may have 2 runs the whole year. So they'll have like a preseason one and a midseason one, and then that's it. So you just need to put in your bids twice a year. It's not like every week scouring through and seeing who's breaking out and stuff like that. So,
Sure, because I
but
would like
yeah,
to see my other friends at some point during the
I
year.
under yeah, I get that for sure. But I will say that Devy is a great middle ground, I think, to dip your toes there and just watch out because after year 2 that you're gonna be like, well, I just want all the college players because now you're looking at them, now you know them, now you're like, I want the 10th receiver on my list. I don't only want the top 3. I mean, that's at least what happened to me. I just got more.
Yeah.
I was like, if you are someone who loves to have the sleeper, you're just
Mhm.
obsessed with like, I want to be on this guy before anyone else is.
Yeah.
CGC is like just awesome because like the further out you get, all the consensus rankings and stuff are so much more. I mean, up and down. Everyone's got like my, receiver 3 in college could be someone else's receiver 12. In the NFL, it's much more. I mean, you can have slight differences, but basically everyone knows who's good.
Sure.
Um, but you can really, plant your flag and just like be like, this guy's awesome, and nobody else is talking about him, and then they totally blow up. So you really have that. You feeds that rush of being the first one to like identify a player.
And then after C2C, you just go and become a scout. And then
I think that's basically what ends up happening.
That's just the next step. So you do Devy, and then you do C2C, and then you're just a scout for the NFL.
Then you're just like, traveling around to high school teams and watching these guys.
I'm just being creepy at high school games. What are you doing here? Do you have a kid here?
No, maybe I don't want to get there, but I definitely watch high school highlight films. That's close, I guess. I'm just not physically on campus.
You are so close. You're nearly there.
Stop me before I get there. But yeah, so it's super fun. But like Devy is a great spot, I think, where you have not that ridiculous level of depth, but you can jump on, again, you can still get on guys much earlier and kind of stake your claim on, the sophomore that you think is about to blow up. So it's really fun. I encourage you to try it. We can DM whatever if you want to, get facilitated into, or you want any advice on how to pitch it to your league mates or any details for the questions you think of. I mean, I really just want to make these deeper formats more accessible is kind of my goal in all of this, honestly. So I appreciate
might hit you up with some questions on proposing a new rule change in my league to see if we can at least get one Devy position. I know that because the way that my boys, the way that they value rookie picks is on another level. So I know that as soon as I propose this, they're going to be like, this is going to tank all of their value. And then I need to be able to spin it and be like, actually, it won't.
And I mean, that's definitely the first reaction, but I think there is definitely some other arguments that, would be appealing. So absolutely. Yeah. If you want to, we can definitely talk offline about how to sell that and the pros and cons. And I can definitely tell you from my own experience, what people will say. I mean, I can anticipate some of the arguments back. And so you can have ready to go the elevator speech of why this is, what you want to do. So
I'm going to sound so well informed. They're going to be so intimidated.
I hope so. I mean, they already are. You're like, you're the professional in the group. So
professional.
Yeah, exactly. With quotes, of course.
The biggest nerd in the group.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Sam. This was really good. You made my job of convincing you pretty easy. Sounds like you're on the track to be interested, so that's great. And thank you for the questions and being ready to talk about this. It's super fun. I want to let you, pump up anything, repeat where people can find you and what kind of stuff you've got going on.
Absolutely. Thank you again so much for having me. I know that when you reached out and you said, we're going to talk Devy, I was immediately intimidated and scared of I don't know this format at all. But then you made it so much more accessible. I'm very excited at the idea of trying this in at least one of my leagues or even joining a league that already does this. So any more ways to enjoy the game, I am all for. So thank you so much for your knowledge and your time on that. I really appreciate it. If anyone wants to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Samantha R. Holt, on Instagram at Sam_awesome. And you can find me, because it's awesome. And then I'm with the guys over at Fantasy Focused. And I've got a show with my co-host Derek Tate called The Fantasy Debate. And we kind of pick points, but going back and forth on different topics. This past weekend, we covered the trade with Carson Wentz and the moving up of Jalen Hurts. So that's what we covered this past Saturday that you guys can check out. And on Sundays, we always do our start sits in the morning before the game as a whole crew with Fantasy Focused. However, in the off season, we've gotten really used to doing these things that we call squad up. And so we do a mini draft depending on the subject matter of different things. And today's squad up, we did appetizers. So we had to go draft format, picking appetizers, and then you guys get to judge who has the best squad based on those items. So we've done different comic books, different Marvel characters. We've done all these types of different squad ups, and they're super fun and a bunch of nonsense, which is great for fun stuff in the off season. And then if you guys are looking for any of my interviews with different people throughout the fantasy football community, you can find that on our YouTube as well. It's one-on-one with Sam. I got the chance to talk with my good friend Matthew Berry, who's awesome last year, and Field Yates, Cynthia Freeland. Got to talk with Colleen Wolfe and Stefania Bell at different points last year too. So there's a lot of really fun people that you guys can see that I got to chat with, and it was a good time. So yeah, check those out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that one-on-one idea. The interviews is super fun. I've enjoyed this. I think you're my third or fourth this off season, and it's super fun to just think about yeah, how I can talk to somebody and, kind of a little outside the direct, oh, these are my rankings, but kind of the stuff that surrounds fantasy and things like that. I have to ask, what was the 101 appetizer?
Okay, so I got the one.
If you can tease it.
I will tease it. I had the 101 pick, and I went with fried calamari as the 101. And I think that if you guys watch the episode, you will see I won the draft. Just going to leave it at that. I won the draft with the rest of my picks. We picked 4 total, and I just won. Let's put it
That's
that way.
awesome. I mean, I think without even thinking too much about it, I really don't have initial problems with calamari as the 101. It's a fantastic appetizer. I get it almost anytime it's available. It's just you don't always find it. But with some marinara, I mean, just
a little bit of lemon. So
oh,
good.
yes, the lemon. Okay, that's awesome. I need to go order some from Uber Eats or something like that. All right. Well, thank you so much. This was really fun. And everyone, if you aren't already, go check out all her stuff at Samantha R. Holt on Twitter. And we will see you guys next time.